Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are making some gorgeous lemon basil soap. The thing that is the most exciting about this soap for me is that I grew the basil myself. It's fresh basil and I picked it right before making the soap, and that was so cool. And so I'm not much of a gardener really at all. Most of it's just a time constraint. My few attempts at growing basil have pretty much just ended in failure and death and massacre of herbs, and that's just sad. So I'm not much of a gardener, but thanks to this really awesome contraption called the Click and Grow, I grew some fresh basil, and I continue to grow fresh basil. There continues to be fresh basil coming up in my kitchen, and I'm eating it all the time, and it's amazing. The Click and Grow is basically a foolproof countertop greenhouse. It's really neat. It's a very sort of slick looking, well-packaged unit, and you basically just sort of pop little almost Keurig coffee cup like seed pods into it, and it's got a water reservoir, and you basically just fill the reservoir, plug it in, and that's it. And then you just wait, and it just grows. It's so cool. It's like you basically just sort of get to watch all the magic of gardening happening without sort of any of the the fussing. There's no weeding. You don't have to like fight deer off of your plants if you live in a part of the world where that's an issue. It's so neat. And they have a ton of different seed pots. You can get all kinds of different things. So I did 3 basils because I love basil and I can never have enough, but they've got like lettuce and chives, and you can even do a spruce tree if you want. I think you're supposed to transplant the spruce tree into a real garden rather than sort of trying to grow it full up in your kitchen. But they come in little packs of 3 that are about $10, which, I mean, when you think about how much you pay for fresh herbs at the store, that's a steal. And then the soil is sort of full of all kinds of wonderful nutrients for your plant so that it can just grow and grow. And it grows for about 3 months before the soil is sort of like, I'm tired. And the plant's like, me too. And then, so you could, sort of shortly before that happens, you could transplant it outside, or you can compost it and then get some more seed pods and grow some more stuff. And they make them in like a set of 3, which is the one that I have. And then there's a bunch of different ones too, in different sizes. You can have basically like a bookcase of a Click and Grow if like you really get into this. It's such a neat contraption. The people at Click and Grow did send me the unit in exchange for a review and a recipe done with it, but they didn't ask to review my content before it was posted or published, so this is all just 100% me really liking this gadget. I'm already sort of planning out what my next sets of pods will be. I think chives. I think I'm going to incorporate some chives into my near future. But yeah, if you really love cooking with fresh herbs, and even if you're an excellent gardener, but you just live in a part of the world like I do where things don't grow for a huge portion of the year, I think you'd really enjoy having one of these on your countertop. So I'll throw a link to them in the description box below if you want to check them out. So for the soap that we're making, soap is one of the very few things that you can put fresh stuff in and not have it just turn into a disgusting molding mess, because soap has such a high pH and it has quite a low water content, so it's self-preserving in with a remarkable amount of sort of challenges that other preservatives have a very difficult time with, which is so fun. Soap is so fun to make. So you can see here that we've got sort of like a bit of a layery thin going on. So the darker bits, that's the bit that has our basil in it, and you can see that this, it's not this gorgeous, vibrant green color, and that is because for one of the downsides of putting fresh things in soap is that's the really high pH saponification reaction does gross things to pretty colors. Basically, everything sort of goes like a muddy brownish version of what it was before, with the exception of calendula petals, which is neat. But so sort of in order to create a bit of a contrast here, I've actually added some rhassoul clay to the layer with the basil, so we get sort of a dark browny green, and then the rest of it gets its color from the inclusion of some French green clay, which gives us this really nice dusty green. So I'm really happy with how these turned out. They smell wonderful. It's a combination of basil essential oil and lemon essential oil. Don't worry, it doesn't smell like food at all. It actually has a really nice, bright, fresh, sort of very hard to pin down scent. It's really neat. But if you know how to make cold processed soap, these bars are a total breeze and an absolute pleasure to have in the home, and really perfect for fall with sort of the basil season coming along. So yeah, let's go make some soap. So to start off with, we have our fats and our lye solution and our immersion blender. And so I'm soaping this the room temperature way, which is a wonderfully convenient and easy way to make soap. It's very low stress because you don't have to worry about fussing with the temperatures. what I did earlier this afternoon is I weighed out and melted all my fats in here and let them cool to room temperature. And I made my lye solution in here and let that cool to room temperature. And I've really been enjoying making my lye solutions in 1 liter mason jars, because then I can pop a lid on them and I don't have to worry about sort of anything getting into them or water loss, or sometimes if I make this outside, a bug crawling in there while it cools. So we're just going to pour our lye solution into our fats. And now we're going to bring this to trace. So I like to give it a bit of a stir by hand to kind of get a feel for how it's going. So I'm just going to pop a container over here so that I have somewhere to pop my spatula or my immersion blender when I'm using something else, so that it doesn't get lye all over the counter. All right, there's our trace. This is a relatively thick trace. It's definitely not like a thin, watery trace that you could do really neat, really thin swirls with, and that is honestly just a byproduct of soaping this cold. If you want to do really fancy stuff, like if you want to do super even layers where you do pours of completely liquid soap batter in different phases, you would want to be soaping a bit hotter than this so that you would get that sort of lower viscosity. So next step is dividing this batter up into 2 parts, because we're going to be making 2 different soaps. And so the video that you're watching now will be one of those 2 soaps, and the other one will be either already on YouTube or there shortly. So poke around, check the description box below for more information. All right, push that aside a bit. Got a scale here. We're going to divide this by weight. This is a 1,450 gram batch. That's the amount of oils that we're using. And so after we add the lye water, that is just over 2,200 grams. So we're just going to weigh out 1,100 grams. All right, now we've got 2 batches of batter, and so the one that we're going to do first is going to be the more finicky one, so that's going to be the one with cedar and peppermint. All right, so here we're going to make the basil lemon soap, because this is one of my favorite ways to make soap, which is to sort of just make 1 batch of batter and then decorate it 2 different ways. So you can see this one over here, and so there'll be a video for that one soon. So here is our batter. First things first, add our essential oil blend. So this is a blend of basil essential oil and 5-fold lemon essential oil. And we're gonna pour some of the batter out into another container and grab our scale here. So this is going to be our basil batter, and the big one is going to be sort of the main green batter. So I'm going to add French green clay to the big one, and we'll blend that in with our blender. And so the blender, you'll notice, still has some green on it from the other soap, but this part is supposed to be green anyways, so I haven't bothered washing it. All right, that's looking good. So we're gonna do the fresh basil part now. Basil, I don't know. I feel like I sort of alter my pronunciation with who I'm talking to. Or if I've recently watched a British television show. So here's our lovely fresh basil leaves. Beautiful thing about soap is it's one of the few things that you can actually put like springy, fresh, beautiful herbs into. Because the high pH and the low moisture content is self-preserving. So that's awesome. So let's give this a blend. Now I'd like to reiterate that these will not look lovely and green in the final soap. So we're gonna go for a really fine blend so that we don't end up with sort of big brownish chunks. All right, so that's not completely 100% no bits because this isn't a Vitamix, but it looks very uniform and there's just sort of small green flecks. So And you're looking at these things and you're like, that's a great color contrast. And then you're looking at this brown clay and thinking, why are you adding that? And it's, well, this is going to kind of turn brown anyways. So this is rhassoul clay, and we're just using this to further emphasize the color contrast. Okay, time for our pour. Exciting. All right. Scooch back this rubber band that's holding the parchment paper on, because parchment paper is so non-stick that tape doesn't stick to it. I prefer butcher's paper for this now, but I'm all out. So I have to order some more of that. I'm going to take the end of this gear tie here and just kind of do some light surface swirls. See if we can bring up a bit of that darker texture, the bit that has the basil in it. You can kind of see some specks coming up there. All right, all that's left to do at this point in time is cover it and leave it to saponify for 24 hours. And it looks like I've got a pretty healthy mess to clean up. So yeah, I will see you in about a day, though sometimes it's longer because things just get away from me, you know. All right, so it's been about 36 hours and I am so excited to slice up these bars and see how they turned out. So first step is disassembling the mold. And there you go, you just made a beautiful batch of basil lemon soap using fresh homegrown basil. Thank you so much for watching, and huge thanks to the folks at Click and Grow for sending me their marvelous kitchen contraption. Please check the description box below for links to this recipe on my blog, where everything is written out with all the amounts so you don't have to worry about copying them out of the video, and of course for the link to the people over at Click and Grow. So if you are interested in grabbing your own super groovy countertop greenhouse, you can do that too. See you next time.